Hello and welcome back to J.P.s Retro World, a channel where I talk mostly about wrestling, but I also talk about life in the 80s movies, 90s movies, TV shows, toys, you got it, or you name it. I'll talk about it eventually, but last time I covered the WWF Hasbro figures. And so today I'm going to be covering a figure line that's Hasbro-esque. They did it in the style of WWF Hasbro's, but it was actually Mattel that came out with these figures. And I'm talking, of course, about the Mattel Retro figures. And since the last time I covered them, I've gotten a few more. So I thought I would revisit the Mattel Retros, and here we go. Starting with some bad ones. I'm just going to get all these bad ones kind of out of the way because they're not very good at all. They're just not very good. And I don't know why Mattel designed them this way because nobody likes them. Nobody I've met cares about them. But talked about these style of figures, these jumpers, but they've got these really stubby arms. And being a jumper is bad enough, but like if the upper body's usable, then it gets a pass. But these are not very good. So right here we've got Goldberg. Not very good. It's just terrible. Goldberg deserves a much better figure than this. Seth Rollins. I'm not a huge Seth Rollins guy. I respect him. I like what he does in the ring, but I'm just not really into his character that much. But yeah, also terrible figure. Then of course, Six, aka X-Pac 123 Kid. This is an awful figure. I feel sorry for Sean Waltman because his Hasbro figure was awful. His Mattel Retro figure is awful. And so I like Sean Waltman. I like the 123 Kid. I liked X-Pac and I like Six, but this figure is atrocious. Just this style. And what's worse is that Mattel Creations keeps making this style of figure. And I don't get it. I don't understand. But these, like I said, if the upper body was at least usable, like if these arms were extended out at least a little more, then these would be more usable. But this sucks. Sorry. Okay, now let's get into some other figures. So, okay, I gotta find his tag team partner. Okay. So I've got an actual, like, really old school WWF tag team here in the Mattel Retros. First, we'll start with the Sheiky baby, the Iron Sheik. That's right. This actually, I really like this figure. And then his tag team partner, of course, Nikolai Volkov. This figure is okay. I don't mind it except for that. I don't mind. I don't like that. This kick move is bad enough, but the fact that it's just way too sensitive. I mean, he's. I've tried trying to have a match with this, and that keeps happening. This foot keeps going up like that. I almost want to go get some super glue and super glue his leg into place so that it just stays there. So I don't need the kick move. I don't need these action power moves that Hasbro always did, and now Mattel Retros is doing it with these. I don't need it. I don't like it. But, yeah. Otherwise, a good figure, like the pose is good, but that really ruins it. But this is pretty good. I mean, I don't like that the hands are open, but they're kind of like this. It's doable. It's usable. So, I actually really like this figure. I do. I like it a lot. So, Iron Sheik, Nikolai Volkov. And then, got a guy that I never really cared all that much about. And now I think he still has a contract with AEW under a different name. But this is Dean Ambrose, known as John Moxley in AEW. But this figure's okay. It's not real great. It's not super fantastic, but it's okay. So then we come to one of my favorite modern era guys, and that is Sheamus. I like Sheamus. Now this figure has also got the power kick move, but it's not as sensitive. This particular figure is not as sensitive. I can actually have a decent match with this figure. Like the pose is pretty good. So I actually like this action figure. Sheamus. And here comes another one that has that same power kick move, but this one is Shawn Michaels, but as you can see, the leg's kind of loose, and it doesn't really do the kick move anymore. It just, and I'd rather have like a loose, dangly leg than the stupid kick move that's always doing that when you're trying to play. It's always like, boom, when you're trying to do a move or something. But anyway, this is Shawn Michaels. This is during the later part of his second run in the WWE when he was wearing these special chap pants. And yeah, so I like this figure. I like the Shawn Michaels figure. Shawn Michaels. And now we'll talk about another guy, that Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle came in the tail end of the Attitude Era. He was there all throughout the Ruthless Aggression era. And then he went to TNA wrestling, and then eventually came back to WWE. But yeah, the Olympic gold medalist, the Olympic hero, Kurt Angle. I liked watching Kurt Angle wrestle. I like this figure. I mean, it's not really a punchy figure, but, imagination, you're supposed to have an open hand anyway when you punch guys in wrestling. Anyway, I'm nitpicky. I know. I'm really super anal about the pose. But anyway, overall, it's a pretty good figure. And I actually, if this figure would have come out when I was younger, I would have actually played with this one a lot. Because I always liked Kurt Angle. I always thought that if Kurt Angle had come out in the 80s, or if he had been an 80s wrestler, or even the early 90s, he would have been like a total babyface. But since he came out with the same attitude in the early 2000s, people didn't really like him because he had that kind of like, I'm going to follow the rules and I'm an athlete, so I should be your hero kind of thing. And people didn't like that. They wanted the rebel. They wanted the Stone Cold Steve Austins and the Rocks and everything. But speaking of Stone Cold Steve Austin, that is our next one. This is Stone Cold Steve Austin. Obviously, for those of you that have been watching this, knows I'm not really a fan of Stone Cold. Now, when he first came in as the ringmaster, I liked his wrestling style. I mean, I liked him as Stunning Steve. I mean, he's okay as Stunning Steve. But then he came in as the ringmaster, and that was, eh. Then when he first turned into Stone Cold, I thought he was kind of cool. But then at King of the Ring 96, or I think it was 96, yeah, he did the whole Austin 316 thing, and they started selling t-shirts and making a bunch of money off of basically blasphemy. Mocking God, mocking Christianity. And I never cared for that. And I never really cared for, hey, well, give me hell yeah, son. I'm going to drink beer and I'm going to flip the bird and I'm Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, hell yeah. I never really cared for that. I'm sorry. I know he was popular. I know a lot of people thought he was the greatest thing ever. He lost me when he mocked God and mocked the Bible. Okay. So now we're moving on to a guy that I'm actually a huge fan of. Not so much the AEW stuff, but everything before that. Of course, Chris Jericho. Y2J, Le Champion, the Lionheart when he was in WCW. At one point, he was also in ECW, Smoky Mountain. This guy's done a lot of places. He's done a lot of things. He's won the Intercontinental title more than anybody else on the planet. And I've always liked Chris. I always liked when he turned heel, he was kind of really funny. I liked how he would intentionally mispronounce people's names just to be obnoxious. And I always liked the fact that as a heel, he was always intentionally obnoxious, because that's kind of what heels are supposed to do, but they're supposed to be cowards as well. But anyway, Chris Jericho, always a fan. Even during his heel days, I was always a fan. The only time I wasn't really a fan is when he was a heel and when he was feuding with Shawn Michaels, and he would come down to the ring wearing a suit with a scowl on his face, and he had this stupid short haircut. And that's when I was like, okay, I can't get behind this Chris Jericho. But later on, when he returned, I liked him again. So anyway, big fan of Chris Jericho. I like this figure, the pose and everything. Chris Jericho. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a tag team. The Hart Foundation. Jim the Anvil and Bret the Hitman Hart. Now, I like this Jim the Anvil Neidhart figure. I kind of like the pose. The face is kind of cool. It's like, that it's wearing the sunglasses and the paint. Everything's cool. It's got that anvil thing on the back there. I like it. Now, this Bret Hart figure, I like it. It's not as good as the original Hasbro figure by far, but it's still solid. I mean, the pose is really solid. And as far as these go, as far as the the Mattel Retros go, this is pretty good. It was a solid effort, but still not as good as the original, but still pretty good. I like it. Okay, now we're going to talk about a man. Well, hold on a second. I got to get his little accessory here. All right. Here we have Jimmy Hart. Hold on. Sorry, earlier I broke this chair and now I'm having issues with it. Anyway, Jimmy Hart. The Mattel Retro of Jimmy Hart. Now this is cool because Hasbro never came out with managers. They never did. They never did managers at all. But Mattel Retro, they got this Jimmy Hart removable megaphone. So Jimmy, Mouth of the South Hart. I'm just waiting for Mattel Retro to come out with a Bobby Heenan. Or maybe Hassel Toys or Zombie Sailor Toys or any one of those guys. Maybe they can come out with a Bobby Heenan figure. I know that they're coming out with a Slick figure. So I'm just gonna put that right back in the ring right there. And so okay, there it is. Sorry, I should have been more prepared. What's up? What's up with that? Okay. Mean Gene Okerlund. This is another one that I love. I love this figure because obviously Mean Gene was the voice of my childhood. He did a good job of interviewing all those wrestlers, and this is his figure. For whatever reason, even the managers, they gave this little action move to, but whatever. I like this figure. I like it a lot. So, put that right there. Okay, so next we're going to talk about another figure that I like, and I like the wrestler as well, AJ Styles. Now, I like the wrestler. I was a fan of him in TNA. Then when he went to Ring of Honor, I was a fan. Then when he came to WWE, I was a big fan because he made his debut at the Royal Rumble. I remember I was at my sister's house at the time. We were watching the Royal Rumble, and I started going, yes, oh my goodness, I can't. Because big fan of AJ Styles. Big fan of this figure. This is a very cool figure. The pose is very cool. I like it so much. I just love this figure. So now we're going to start getting into the latest wave of figures that I got from Mattel Retros. This one was a specialty wave that you could only get through Ringside Collectibles. But we'll start with this one. Scott Hall in the NWO collection. Now Scott Hall, this figure, it's okay. Pose-wise, it's not great, but it's also not the worst. But yeah, actually, you're supposed to do something like that. Maybe put them up there. Now they use the Rock's body style. The Mattel Retros, they did the Rock, and it was this body with the same move, but obviously it's Scott Hall's head. And you can see on this trunks it says The Outsiders. I mean, the detail on the paint is pretty good. The shirt looks pretty good. They've even got the little curly thing that he had hair, but I still probably would use this figure. But anyway, Scott Hall. And naturally, you follow Scott Hall with Kevin Nash. Big, sexy Kevin Nash. Again, I really like this figure. I like the pose. It's just basic just a basic big man power punching pose. And it's taller than a lot of the other ones because he's like almost 7 feet tall. But yeah, big sexy Kevin Nash. And now we come to the number one guy, Hulk Hogan, or in this case, Hollywood Hulk Hogan. So, again, they did that stupid thing. I don't like that. Again, I'm thinking about getting some super glue, just putting a drop like right there and then right behind there so his leg stays in place. Anyway, but yeah, this figure's okay. You know, I've heard some of you say that you thought this one was a little overblown as far as the size of his arms and his fists. I guess I can see that, kinda, but I like this figure, except for that. That kind of ruins it, but anyway. But the look of it is really cool. I like the look of it. You know, it's got the Hollywood on the back. It's got the little NWO thing on the boots there. Cool figure. Okay, so might as well get into the Zombie Saber toys because I only have 2 of them. So we'll do these real quick. And we'll start with probably my favorite figure of this entire collection. And that is this one. This is Dino Bravo. I like this figure because it's simple, but it's got a lot of detail on it. And I like the pose. There's no power action move. It's just your basic wrestling figure with a perfect pose. And the body style is perfect. Everything about this figure, in my opinion, is perfect. I love, love, love this figure. So, anyway, love it. And then the other one that I have is one that, just like that one, took a long time to receive it. But here we go. King Kong Bundy. A guy that was never released with the Hasbros. But thanks to Zombie Saber Toys, I can add him to my Hasbro-esque collection. But yeah, again, cool figure. Very basic. But that's what I love about it. Is that it's because there was nothing fancy about King Kong Bundy at all. He was just a big guy. In fact, I was just watching an old episode of World Class Championship Wrestling where they called him Big Daddy Bundy. And he came to the ring wearing blue jeans and a rope and a tank top. But he had hair. But you could tell it was totally King Kong Bundy. But anyway, that's King Kong Bundy. Zombie Saber Toys. Very cool. Love it. Okay, so that is going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. So next time, I'll probably just talk quickly. I'll show you probably my original San Francisco toy maker figures, because I don't really have a ton of those either. So I can bust through those pretty quick. Anyway, so next time, next time I might actually go with the expansion of the channel and start talking about Back to the Future. So I'm looking forward to that. I've been wanting to do that for a long time. So tune in next time for Back to the Future. Okay, so if you're new here, feel free to like the video just by clicking that little thumbs up thing. And you can go ahead and subscribe to the channel. That'll be cool too. Love to have you. And with that, I will see you next time.